Good morning, everyone. This is Jerry Gautereaux with Global Scanning, Scan Dimension. Welcome to our Q&A webinar for the Sol and Sol Pro 3D scanners. And we have Dan Bennett here with us. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, Jerry.
And it looks like we also have some people from the Drafting Clinic Canada. It looks like Peter's out there. Hey, Peter, and you're welcome to join in on our conversation if you'd like.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good, thank you. And so one of our first question was about, this would pertain to both the Sol and the Sol Pro, and it's, do I always need to scan inside of a tent to get good results?
So the short answer to that, Jerry, is absolutely. The purpose of the tent is to keep stray light, ambient light, that type of thing out of the sensors. And if that light gets into the sensors, it can create adverse effects on your model. So you definitely want to use a tent. We provided it. It actually has an area at the bottom where you can run the cables through the bottom of the tent. So you don't have to have the cables, hanging over the side or anything like that. So it's a really nice tool, and we highly recommend you use it.
Sure. Short of scanning in a dark room, like a photographer's dark room, and then even still, you may get some reflection from other things. But and I've seen that tent, Dan, where people have used it. It's a tent, and then it also has a nice kind of like a black velvet mat. And I've seen it where they lay the mat out and they set the model and the scanner right on top of the mat, and then they put the tent over top of it, of course, tent. But I've also seen it where people will flip it upside down and kind of set the whole thing down inside of the tent to kind of make a nice tight space as well that, they just have to cover over the top of.
Yeah, it really is personal preference. It's just about keeping the light out. But I found, in my opinion, there's a flap at the top of the tent that's easy to pull, so you're not having to lift the whole entire tent up and over. But it really is personal preference.
Right. So it could work. It works well either way, I guess. Is kind of the thing.
Absolutely.
And then that's for both scanners. Essentially, there's kind of the same design in the scanner, so it works exactly the same way, same dimensions, right?
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
And then so they're saying when performing multiple scan passes of the same model, can I manually mesh each scan if desired?
Yeah, so that's a feature that we have with the latest Sol Pro software, and it does allow you to do that. We actually have a great video. I don't know, I'm going to give you a heads up, Jerry. I don't know if you're able to show that based on the configuration that you got set up right now. But there is a video that shows it and demonstrates it. It's perfect. But what it will do to kind of explain the reason you would want multiple passes is symmetrical objects, say it's a block or maybe it's a sphere. There's very little detail that we can extract from that model to be able to differentiate. Are you looking at the front of the model? Are you looking at the back of the model? Maybe you're looking at the side or the top. It looks very similar on all sides. And our auto mesh program can have difficulties trying to figure that out. So what we did is we allowed you to do a manual mesh. And what it will do is, let's say you took 3 passes of the block of foam, for example, is what we used in this video I was telling you about. Then the idea is it will give you an image of all 3 of these different views, and then it'll allow you to mesh them together. It really explains it so well that it's a really nice tool, and they did a great job with it.
Symmetrical objects with few or no distinct features are well known to be difficult to 3D scan. That is why we developed the feature Optimize Alignment as a unique option in Sol Pro Creator. This block of foam is a typical symmetrical object that doesn't have any distinct alignment features. And I'll show you how to use the Optimize Alignment option in Sol Pro with this as an example. I did 3 scanning passes to get the surface fully covered. As you can see, the automatic meshing needs some help to align the different orientations from the scanning passes, so I'll click the Optimize Alignment button. This disregards the automatic meshing, and Sol Pro shows me the 2 point clouds with the most information first. They are oriented the same way as they were on the turntable. Using the mouse and the controls displayed in the software status area, I can now rotate and move the second point cloud to align it with the first. I've marked the foam with an X and a circle to help me rotate and position the point clouds correctly. When I'm satisfied with the positioning, I click the Merge and Go to Next Point Cloud button and do the same with the input from the third and last scanning pass. All point clouds are now aligned, so I click Start Meshing. And as you can see, the Sol Pro Optimize Alignment feature is very effective when it comes to 3D scanning symmetrical objects. All that's left now is to click Save, and the 3D model opens up in Sol Pro Viewer for further inspection and sharing. Happy scanning!
So you could see that really explains it well. It's a very simple process. It gives you complete control of how you take each point cloud and mesh them on top of each other. And then the little option where Charlotte put a circle and an X on a model that would be impossible to determine whether or not you're looking at the front or the back side is just brilliant. It's a simple little thing. You can do any type of thing like that. Maybe attach a sticker or something to one side, something that you can remove if you don't want to mark on your model. And just anything to differentiate it will give you that control of being able to see everything well. And so it's a nice feature. It works wonderful. And in most cases, if you have a model that isn't very symmetrical and it doesn't have a lot of smooth surfaces that are hard to distinguish, then you can let the auto mesh do its thing, and 90% of the time it's going to come out perfect.
It'll get it right on the button.
Yeah, it's just these difficult symmetrical objects are tough. And there's a whole bunch of different videos that we have put out that really do help you understand not just the functionality of the software, but explain the whens and the wheres and the whys you'd want to use a specific feature. So
yeah, as a matter of fact, let's see. So this is our YouTube page for Scan Dimension, and I think this is looking at the videos that are listed there. Let's see. And so there's a number of different ones here, as well as quite a few community videos that are set there as well. Right.
Yeah, there's just some basic overviews. If you've never used a scanner before, just A to Z from beginning to end, there's a video out there that just basically shows all the steps of how the software is going to take you through obtaining a scan. And it's pretty simple. It's pretty wizard driven, but it's a nice video just to kind of give you that extra confidence that you're going to be able to get a scan and get decent results in it. So.
Yeah, right. Let's see. And then so we also have a question about what is the difference between the Sol and the Sol Pro model scanners, and why would I want one over the other?
All right. You can chime in anytime you want, Jared.
Okay.
I would say the big difference between the Sol scanner and the Sol Pro is the Pro is the professional version of the scanner. So it's higher resolution. It's 2 times greater, or it's twice the resolution. So the Sol scanner is 0.1 millimeter or 100 microns, where the Sol Pro is or has a maximum accuracy of 0.05 or 50 microns in size. So it's a significant difference. 8 megapixel camera in the Sol Pro versus 5 in the Sol scanner, and it is faster, and it has some additional features like high accuracy calibration that you can turn on or off, those types of things. So the Soul scanner does a great job, but it's more of an entry level product, where the professional version just gives you the accuracy or the additional resolution that often is required in a scan for higher type environment.
I think a big thing to look at is that, with the Soul, that's a fantastic entry level 3D scanner for hobbies, figures, just kind of small objects, things like that. But when you get into the Soul Pro, you have an excellent industrial inspection type scanner, still for small objects, but that's able to give you that high resolution, so you can really kind of compare, both for pre-production inspecting and getting everything ready to go forward, as well as during the product run, to be able to pull something out of the manufacturing run and compare it, inspect it, compare it to the original, to make sure everything is still up to snuff.
Right. So often you think of using a 3D scanner and prototyping because you have an object and you want to scan it and be able to recreate it in some fashion. But often factories will use it to verify their molds, that type of thing, that they're getting the same measurements within spec that they expect to get over a long run of production. So
and very fast and with a high accuracy. Whereas before, I think a lot of that, you're sitting there, or the engineers would be sitting there taking some very detailed measurements. Whereas this, a couple of passes and you have, you can see exactly what you've got.
Right. Yep.
And let's see.
Hey, Jerry, it's Peter.
Yeah. Hey, Peter.
Was it my understanding as well for the Soul Pro that they included some additional functions or upgrades to deal with dark objects and shiny objects?
As well as shiny and things like that. And I think that comes down to also the fact that the Soul Pro has that Pro software application. Is that right, Dan?
Yeah. After using the Pro software for a while, it really is nice. I mean, I've become very attached to it very quickly in comparison. But you're right, Peter, and thanks for bringing that up. There are some additional features that allow us to scan difficult objects, such as things that are shiny and whatnot. Now, we have some other techniques to be able to do those types of objects as well. But right out of the box, the scanner can do a pretty good job using software filters that we have embedded in the Pro software. And traditionally, a shiny object that wants to refract the light.
That's the end of it almost, right?
Yeah. Or
unless you powder it, unless you spray it with a special substance.
Yeah, dark objects, that type of thing, because it absorbs the light. It's difficult to scan those things sometimes. And so kind of the go-to tool is a 3D spray, they basically call it. And what it does is pretty amazing. It frosts the image. It looks just like if you froze it with Freon, but it's not cold. And the material that gets sprayed on this just evaporates over a period of maybe 10, 15 minutes or so. So it gives you enough time to scan your object, and it doesn't really hurt it at all.
Right.
And whatever it is, it just kind of dissipates and goes away, and you don't have to spend a lot of time cleaning it. If you use the powder-based type solution, this is just amazing.
It almost performs like
it
almost performs like a spray-on rubbing alcohol, and then it's gone.
Yeah,
but
just evaporate.
If you remember from early in 3D types of scanning, laser scanning and things like that, I mean, really, it seemed more like they had certain companies had relabeled what was used to be the spray snow that you would get for for seasonal Christmas trees and things, and that you would have to then, of course, clean off any bit of artwork or anything that you were scanning. But this type of stuff these days has really come a long way.
Yeah, I used it last time I used it. I was scanning some sunglasses.
Oh,
And it
great.
was the perfect world for a nightmare because it was glass, which is extremely difficult to scan because the lasers have a tendency to look right through it, as well as the arms were black and
And
a
shiny,
black
right?
shiny plastic. And I used it, and they came out extremely well.
And
And
no worse
again,
for wear. This was a nice high-end pair of sunglasses that need to go back to the manufacturer and the designer, right?
yeah. So it really, I felt very comfortable utilizing it, knowing I wasn't going to damage the goods. So
Gotcha. And again, this is not our product. This is just something that people can expect to, if you're using a lot of 3D scanning
yeah,
and
the
shiny
easiest way to
materials,
find
things like
these
that.
is, I think we make note of some of the manufacturers on our website as well, or on the YouTube channel. But the if you just Google up 3D scanning spray, you'll come up with them very quickly.
Gotcha.
And it's a well worth the investment to buy a couple of cans of this stuff if you're doing a lot of scanning with objects that are fairly shiny and whatnot.
Right. Well, I think that is actually, this was kind of short. That's what we had for the questions. Of course, anybody is welcome to go ahead and ask any questions if they're thinking about getting a 3D scanner, or if they're thinking about reselling some of our scanners, or if they've got a scanner now and they're having some issues with the scans. This is the type of forum that we like to put out there to kind of just be able to hash things out. Of course, we'll answer anything through our support ticket. I think we've got a good system there for that, for end users as well as the resellers. But I think we may make this, it's possible this might be a regular thing where we have a 3D Q&A kind of session out there.
Yeah, so just to speak to that, Jerry, since we are so early here, we're either getting better at not talking too much or better at answering questions. I'm not quite sure which, but the Soul Scanner is supported through both an online chat system, and it does open a ticket through a ticket system as well for more of the end user base. The Soul Pro Scanner we actually support through our distribution channel. And so those questions can get fed back through your distributor where you actually purchase the scanner. And we also have, the old-fashioned contact support, and put your name, phone number in there, and email address, and we'll get back. It will generate a ticket for you, and we can function that way as well. So,
correct me if I'm wrong, Dan. I think there's not a whole lot of hardware support issues with this product. There's it's kind of functionality and how people are doing it and what they're using it for and how they can kind of get along, right?
Yeah, I would say the vast majority of any technical support call that we've gotten is related to operational things, like I'm having difficulty getting good results scanning this particular object, and they're asking for some tips and tricks. The other one would be like driver related issues. And the Soul Pro Scanner, based on the OS support that we have, that has even become very, very far and few between. On the entry level scanner, we saw a little more of the driver type questions. But the other thing that we're constantly doing is trying to update our knowledge base. So you can go to,
and that's what I have up here.
Right. You can go to the Scan Dimension knowledge base and really search for just about any question that can possibly come up. And the product's been very stable in the last year. It seems to be working really well. And normally, if you do have a problem, it's going to be in the turntable, that type of thing, and those are real easy to resolve. And so yeah, it's been a good product so far, and we've been pretty happy with the support of it.
Gotcha. And with the turntable, is that because I think it's powered with 2 USB connections, one for the turntable, one for the scan head, and it's usually something along those lines, right?
Yeah, with the Soul scanner, the typical entry level scanner, they need to be powered by 2 separate USB-C interfaces, and typically we recommend running those through like a powered USB switch and or hub, and plug those in so power is running from 2 separate cables. On the Soul Pro scanner, they're basically daisy chained. So the turntable has a short interface cable that plugs into the camera housing, and I may have that backwards. And yeah, I do. The camera goes down to
Into the turntable, and then
the turntable, and the turntable goes out to your PC. And there was some issues, for example, in the Mac world with running 2 separate USB devices simultaneously on this. There were some driver issues, and so that caused some issues on the regular Soul scanner. Previous to a certain version of Mac, they didn't have a problem, but some of the later versions they did, and it was just a driver issue that's embedded inside of the Macs, and so we don't support the Mac OS platform on the original Soul scanners.
Right. So that's what I was just going to bring up. Is it so the Soul Pro is Windows as well as Mac, right?
Correct. Yes.
And most current, most up to date, and the Soul is Windows only.
Correct. Yeah, we supported Mac for a short period of time, but like I say, some of the newer versions, I think it was after, say, Monterey,
Monterey.
All of a sudden we started having all kinds of issues that were created, and so they just dropped the support on the Mac for the entry level products. So,
gotcha. All right, and so I'll go ahead and I'll wrap things up for today, and thank everyone for coming. And Dan, thank you very much for your time, and Peter, thank you also for very, very much for your time.
Betcha. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.